Thank you for joining us today. We are here to speak about the very interesting brand new online MBA, Master of Business Administration, offered by the Johannesburg Business School, which is part of the University of Johannesburg. And I am joined today by the acting head of the Johannesburg Business School, Professor Conrad Viedge. I'm also joined by Marlize Kitching, who is an independent consultant and online education expert. Conrad and Marlize are going to take us through the highlights of the online MBA from Johannesburg Business School. And there's loads of extremely interesting information during this session. And stay tuned and learn a lot more. I'm going to start with Conrad. Conrad, please tell us a bit more from your perspective about the Johannesburg Business School online MBA.
Thanks, Louis. We're very proud of the fact that we're the first public university that's offering an online MBA. And here I'd like to give full credit to the founder of the Johannesburg Business School, Professor Lyle White, who said in, I think it was February, that we need to have an online MBA. And here we are sitting less than a year later with the MBA up and running. It's a wonderful product. We're staying true to the fact that in many ways it replicates the contact and that we cover the same content with the same commitment that we have on the contact, which is to realistic, worthwhile, and practical knowledge that people can use. And equally, those people who want to go into business, this is the right MBA for them on the online.
You have partnered with Higher Ed Partners South Africa. Please tell us a bit more about why you chose HEPSA as your technology provider for this Johannesburg Business School online MBA.
The first and very important reason is we realized we needed to get to market as quickly as we could. And there are very few partners who could guarantee that we'd actually hit our deadlines and get everything up and running on time. HEPSA have a very proud tradition of, certainly in South Africa as well as internationally, taking established programs and converting them into online in a way that works and promoting them with a wide audience so that you get a good catch of students on the program.
Thank you, Conrad. The next question is for Marlize. What are the main differences between this online course and an in-class MBA experience?
So it's difficult to describe because it's just there's such a drastic difference between the one and the other. Obviously, the first one is in contact allows you to physically engage with other classmates and is more suited to people who are actually close to a specific business school. The reason JBS wanted to open up this opportunity is really just also to allow engagement with students in outlying areas and also outside of Gauteng who can't physically be in class twice a week or every single Saturday.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what students will experience. Will it be just videos that they watch, or will they interact with a specific website for the program? Just tell us a bit more about the experience when I switch my computer on. What happens?
Okay, so thank you for that question, Louis. It's a very important question. So a lot of people, when they hear the word online learning, they think of a process where you download documentation and you work through that on your own, and you have potentially some recorded online faculty lectures or Zoom faculty lectures. This model is very different. We refer to the term virtual engagement, and we try and replicate the exact same learning experience and actually offering more than you would get in a typical classroom MBA. What we mean by virtual engagement is that there's ongoing engagement between yourself, your lecturer, and your classmates. And it's done in a very seamless way, so that you do feel you've got support continuously and that you are engaged continuously and that you're not left to yourself and your own devices. What's important to note that this is asynchronous, which is interesting because we were able to replicate a model with the support from HEPSA, which offers asynchronous learning. And basically that means you can learn at any point in time, whenever it's suitable and convenient for you, without missing out on real engagement with your faculty through discussions, through short, sharp learning presentations, through Q&A with classmate discussions, etc. And the only way that's possible for us is that we've got a really good support team that's supporting the MBA and making sure that students are engaged continuously.
Sounds fantastic. I really like the asynchronous aspect of it, because that means you, if I understand you correctly, it means you can learn at your own pace while staying engaged and moving along the learning curve at the same time.
Yes. So that's definitely a part of it. Unfortunately, this is still an MBA. So we do pay students and there are weekly outcomes that have to be delivered before they move on to the next week. So we're definitely not slacking. We align in terms of quality with our contact MBA. But what it does allow our students is if you do have a very busy work and family life and you can only get to your studies to engage with at 10 o'clock at night, you will still be able to have the same engagement opportunities as an in-class student would be able to.
That's fantastic. Thank you for clarifying that and clearing that up, because that makes it a very appetizing prospect for people that can't go to classes physically. Conrad, I just want to ask you something quickly on that point, because we've heard a lot of people ask this question, and that's why I'm directing it at you. It's still an MBA, right? It's the same MBA that you will learn or that you will experience, and the same qualification that you will get as an in-class MBA, correct?
Correct. So when we registered the MBA for the Johannesburg Business School, we registered two versions, and that was done actually in 2016, round about there, quite a few years back. And luckily, they had the foresight to register both an online and also, of course, the contact. And the two are parallel. So the assessment criteria and how we go about covering the content is the same. The manner in which it is done is different, but the exit outcomes are the same. And I always ask students this: think how much time you'd spend thinking about various business aspects without doing an MBA versus doing an MBA. And the online will generate that thinking and discussion as well as the same way as the contact would do it. So they're both MBAs and both are going to serve people very well in their careers.
That's very good to know. Thanks for that, Conrad. Marlize, if I understand it correctly, you kicked off the initial online class very recently. How did that go with such a brand new thing practically?
So, yeah, that's a very good question. So when I agreed to take on this project last year, myself and Hepsa were a tad bit concerned with very tight timelines, and obviously you need lead time to get into market. We were extremely pleasantly surprised by the uptake and the interest in this MBA, just really demonstrating the shift that has taken place in the market from a desire for contact teaching versus online teaching. And I do think a part of that was obviously initiated by COVID, and which disrupted the learning market for us. But very surprised by the excellent quality candidates coming through and the high demand. So the first intake, yes, did kick off on the 11th of January, and the class was oversubscribed. And then the unique thing about this model is that every year there's 6 new intakes. So in March, the second intake for the specific MBA will start, and therefore students have the opportunity to start throughout the year, as opposed to having to wait until the next academic year to get a spot on the MBA.
That's absolutely incredible what you've shared with us now, because that, to me, just sounds as if the world of education has just shifted, and in the online space you can accommodate so much more, so many more people who maybe would have had to have waited another year before they could start. First intake in January, second intake in March. That's amazing.
Yeah, that is. And then the other great benefit, Louis, of this specific model, which is quite unique, is that you pay per module. So a module consists of 2 courses, and you don't have to pay 75% of your first year MBA fees up front, which is very, very much the way other business schools or contact MBAs function, which is really financially doable for a lot of students who don't necessarily have 100,000 to 200,000 that they can just put down on a MBA program.
That's amazing. So the Johannesburg Business School Online MBA uses all of the benefits of online, including payment benefits. I want to ask you something about your modules. Do you then earn credits? And as you earn these credits, you need to build up to let's say a final total or something like that, and only then can you receive the qualification.
Yes, a very good question, and definitely a practical question that a lot of our potential students will want to know about. So you can only qualify for the MBA once you have completed all the required subjects or courses, which means, yes, you do accumulate credits, but even if you've done 80% of the credits, you still won't qualify until you've completed all of the courses. Yeah.
Is there a time limit during which you have to complete the online MBA?
So we try and really encourage through a number of initiatives for our students to complete during the course of the 2-year period that the program's been designed for. And that's very important because they build connections with their classmates. They do a lot of work in syndicate groups, which happens throughout the journey. And that just really helps them stick with the program as is. That because once they get lost, it's very difficult for people to come back. So I know that the school is driving a number of initiatives to really encourage people to stick with the 2-year schedule. However, they do have a 3-year period, so extensions will be allowed, but we really try and discourage that. So applicants would have to motivate as to why they need to exceed the 2-year period.
These syndicate groups, which is a mainstay of most MBA, contact MBA programs around the world, these syndicate groups, do they meet online only, or is there a physical component to that?
So there's no requirement. As we want to open the door as broadly as we possibly can. So, I mean, I'm sure that the school envisions just, like in 5 years' time, hopefully having an African reach or an international reach beyond Africa, which will make it very difficult and limiting if a required student engagement is in that of the form of a syndicate group is required. It's completely up to the syndicate group. What we drive is online engagement. We've got a number of platforms that we make available to the students to help them with a seamless group discussion and engagement platform in their syndicate groups. But yeah, so it's optional. They're welcome to. They really do build strong relationships through the course of the journey, but it's not compulsory and it might not be possible a lot of the time.
You might have a student from Australia. You might have a student from Joburg, Cape Town. It's amazing, this new online world, specifically education, is just incredible, and you are at the very forefront of that with the new online MBA from Johannesburg Business School. How about faculty? This is a big change for students, obviously. Students have to get used to this way of learning, but the faculty also needed to change, I suppose. So does your program offer assistance and facilitation of faculty who are responsible for lecturing to the students?
Yeah, that's also an excellent question. And Conrad, feel free to jump in, but it's completely different. It's the set of skills required to firstly develop something as complicated as a virtual engagement experience is so different from what is required to be a typical MBA lecturer on a contact MBA. So it really requires a massive shift in not only the way of thinking, but skills and expertise as well. So with that in mind, we still need the unique and really critical subject matter expertise that our faculty bring, but it's very critical that they are supported through a strong support system in the form of facilitators and tutors and additional online engagement support. So to use the strength that our faculty still and always will bring, but to support them through the areas that aren't necessarily their forte.
But it's the same people, right? So the same person that lectures the subject for the contact MBA is the same person that you will engage with in the online MBA. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's no compromise in terms of quality. The really renowned and expert people that are used on the JBS Contact MBA are the exact same ones that the online students are engaging with.
That's good to know. It's so amazing, because those days that you would have maybe thought a few years ago that online might not be as good, this is proven and guaranteed to be as good, and in your personal circumstances it could even be better because of the asynchronous teaching ability, and you can be anywhere and still do your online MBA through Johannesburg Business School.
So just one more point on that. So referring back to your question, contact versus online, I know we touched on this, but as someone who's actually done an MBA, it requires a lot of you to go through your contact MBA in terms of physical class presence. And it's not optional. You know, you want the best value that you possibly can get from an MBA. It's a massive investment. So it really is so much more suited to the busy lives that people are currently living, you know, and you might only have 2 hours tonight, and maybe you've got a full Saturday, but you can really schedule it around your own personal preference.
Conrad?
Just to say that what we see happening as well with the online and the contact is the online process actually improves the lecturing of the contact people, because they have to really ask themselves, why do I actually cover this point? Because on the online, of course, it has to be short, sharp, and really worthwhile. And that, of course, helps improve the contact as well. So we're seeing a benefit coming through on the contact by having done the online.
So there's a little bit less waffle and more concentrated learning.
Exactly.
Conrad, how big are the classes? Let's say your first intake. How many students did you take in?
So Marlize has done a wonderful job, very, very good job in terms of getting people on the program. And at the moment, we're sitting with 42 people on the program, which is a lot more than we expected or budgeted for. So it's a great achievement. And it does show the demand, and particularly as Marlize was saying, we're getting people from areas where we could not service them on the contact. And one always thinks about the person sitting in Richards Bay who'd love to do a really good MBA. And now they have the opportunity to do exactly that.
That's incredible. Marlize, I just want to ask you about your view of the future of this kind of education. Already we can see huge demand immediately, but there's another intake coming in March. In let's say in 3 years from now, how do you see the offering online vis-a-vis contact?
Yeah, so I personally do believe this is the way of the future. You know, if you look at preference in terms of younger generations, preference in terms of employers with regards to time out of the office to attend physical classes, and just the way people enjoy learning. This absolutely, there's no doubt in my mind, this is the way of the future. And not just in terms of online learning. It's very critical to differentiate between the two. It's about creating a virtual learning and engagement experience for the students, and not just providing them with static information online. So that really engages them and helps them through a very difficult academic journey. The model is extremely scalable, you know, so once you've really pinned down the initial design of what your course should look like, which is a huge amount of work, and faculty really spend beyond 80 hours to think through that and put it together. But once you've done that, then it requires much less time to tweak it and adjust it in future, because a lot of that information remains relevant. And obviously it allows students to, if, for example, I had a personal circumstance and there was a module I could not attend for some reason with my cohort, I can maybe join with the March cohort, and therefore I don't have to delay the completion of my studies, which also makes it very appealing. But there's no doubt in my mind that this is the way of the future.
No, I tend to agree, and you guys are really quick off the mark. So also congratulations to the Johannesburg Business School MBA gurus, because you've really taken the opportunity and ran with it. So it sounds fantastic. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that you think that people interested in doing the online MBA might want to know about?
So maybe just to bring home the point that we're one of the very few MBAs, both with contact and online, we have business coaches for the students, so that they have an opportunity to set goals and to work with the coach throughout the program on achieving those goals. And we realize it can be a lonely journey when you're studying online, and therefore to have somebody that you're interacting with that's keeping an eye on how the progress is going, talking about your learning, we think is a great differential advantage for an online MBA.
Fantastic. As a last point, if I'm somebody interested in doing the online MBA, what do I do? What's my first step? Where do I go?
So, Louis, sorry, I just want to add to what Conrad said in terms of what's critical to know. So this is by no means inferior to a contact MBA. If I personally, again, me personally had to choose and I had the option between a contact MBA and this kind of MBA, I would absolutely choose this, just really due to the nature of the busyness of my life, which I'm sure is not unique. And then it's an extremely cost-effective or affordable MBA in comparison, which again might make people think that it's inferior, but it is absolutely not. It's an amazing experience, and there is no compromise in terms of the quality of students that are in the class, because really it's one of the things that also surprised me is the high quality or caliber of candidates that came through, and therefore again just expressing the need in the market for something like this offering. In terms of how people apply, you just go onto the online programs at UJ website. You can just Google online at uj.ac.za, and that will take you directly to the university's online programs where you can apply and get all the information that you might require or need. And the MBA is one of the listed programs on there.
And if people want, for whatever reason, they want to find out a little bit more information, maybe they couldn't get everything immediately on the website, they perhaps couldn't find it, they would like to speak to somebody, is that possible?
Yes. So there is a dedicated call center, and they actually prompt people on the system and are very proactive in engaging with applicants. They really support applicants through the process, give them full context of what this is. And the contact details for the call center is also listed on that website. It's very clear to see it. There's a contact number as well as a dedicated email address.